Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's webinar from Annika Digital. I'm very pleased that we've also got Celine and Gareth from Sky joining us today, who are going to be talking about AdSmart. I will introduce them properly in a second. I'm not actually hosting today. It's going to be a mix of Chris and Gareth. But I thought what we would do is, while we're waiting for a few more people to attend, is start off with a quick poll. You're quite welcome to start commenting in the chat, which is open, and you'll also notice there's a Q&A as well. So please feel free to start putting some information and comments in there. That would be really useful. So I'm just going to start the poll. You should see it on your screen, but for the benefit of the people that are watching this, I'm also going to read out the questions as well. So bear with me while I get the technology correct. Okay, so hopefully you can see something on the screen. If the guys who are presenting could nod so I can see. Can you see the screen, guys? Okay, so I'll just read out the questions. Have you used or considered TV advertising in the past, or if you're currently considering it? And the answers are, you can choose one of these. No, I thought it was too expensive. No, I didn't think it would work for our type of business. Yes, I'm considering it, and that's why I'm listening here today. Yes, I'm proactively researching it. And yes, I have used some form of TV ads in the past. Well, I think that one of the reasons why we're presenting this today is we have got some good news for you, in that actually the AdSmart option isn't particularly expensive, and also it can be used across most sectors, including B2B. Now, as you can see on the screen, for the people that are live, at the moment, we've got about half of you thinking that it was too expensive, which is really interesting. So, of course, that means that we're going to blow that myth out of the water this morning. And then the other people are pretty much split between not thinking it would work for their business. They are considering it. And then there's a couple of people that have actually used it before. Okay, so I think without further ado, what I'll do is I'll pass over to Chris, who's going to start the presentation, give you a bit of an outline of what we're going to cover today in the contents, and then he'll pass the baton on to Gareth and Celine to introduce themselves. So thanks very much, everybody. Let's pass over to Chris. I'll mute my mic.
Morning. Right, let's first just go through the content. So Anne's already done this, but a bit of an intro from me. So I'm the head of social at Annika, for anyone who's not joined one of these before. I'll give you a little bit of a background about Annika, but I'm not going to go mad on that. And then to kind of tee Gareth up, I've got a bit of an intro about paid media and brand awareness. And then we'll get into the really good stuff, the stuff that Gareth's got on Sky AdSmart. Bit of an intro from him and Celine, and then what Sky AdSmart is, and then they've got a really exciting kind of SME 100 promotion to kind of talk to people about. Hopefully leave a bit of time for Q&A at the end. Hopefully you'll have plenty of questions, and then that'll be it for today. So a little bit about us. We've been around since 2007. There's 20 of us at our Leicester office when we aren't all working from home. We're a Facebook and Google marketing partner, which means we've basically successfully spent lots of clients' money in those channels, and we know what we're doing to the point where we've got some nice badges. We're also the founders of Leicester Digital Live. So some of you might have been to that. That's our big conference, but it's also our monthly meetups that we usually run at our offices. And we have different speakers come and talk about various things in the world of digital marketing. Like all good agencies, we've got our fair share of awards as well. So last year we won a few of the Drum Awards, including the Grand Prix one, that nice shiny black one, which we're quite proud of. And more recently, we started Annika Academy. That's basically our training program, 12 workshops, covers all kind of aspects of digital marketing and leads to qualifications from the Digital Marketing Institute and towards your CIM, your Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications. So that's a little bit about us. Just in terms of who we work with, so there'll be a few logos you probably recognise on there. The likes of Experian, we work with Palex, Wattbike over in Nottingham. So we've got a nice mix of B2B and B2C clients. And now on to paid media for brand awareness. So brand awareness used to be this kind of vague, fuzzy metric that you kind of did through channels, national print and press, out of home, TV, radio. And it was one of those that it was really hard to kind of prove its value and what it had actually done. We could have things like YouGov to do polls on kind of our brand awareness, or we could spend quite a lot of money on kind of bespoke research to try and find out what impact our marketing efforts had. So what that meant is when it came to trying to prize money out of the hands of your CFO or your kind of your financial teams, and they asked what you were getting for your money, it could be a little bit difficult. But in terms of digital media, we can track all that stuff, and we can get a lot more visibility in terms of the impact of what our marketing efforts are doing, even for brand awareness. So whereas a lot of people automatically assume digital marketing is going to be all about the click and the conversion, we can do some really kind of traceable and measurable brand awareness and brand impact stuff as well. And because some of the tools kind of give us a lot more insight, we don't necessarily need to spend all those big pots of money on in-depth research and analysis. So in terms of an integrated digital approach, this is a slide we kind of take most of our clients through. What we've done is taken that kind of traditional marketing funnel, and that's that pink bit that you can see going across the top. And everyone's got their own version of this. Drop a marketing textbook and it'll open on one. But just to make it really simple, awareness at the very top. And then in the middle, you've got this kind of consideration or sometimes called education phase. And then at the very bottom, you've got that conversion. So finally getting the user to do what you want. In terms of the awareness bit, that's the bit we're kind of talking about today. And what you've got is, you can see we've got quite a few different channels available to us. And one of them obviously being digital TV, and in the case of today's talk, Sky AdSmart. And that's a big part of awareness now, because it does give us that kind of broadcast level presence, but in a digital environment that we can apply some of our more detailed targeting principles to. But then also you've got things like social media can play a big part in basically awareness and large-scale broadcast and reach campaigns. And then obviously you can see how that then feeds in to getting people to do things like searches in Google, or going to your website and to looking at specific products and content pages, and it all kind of feeds down. But today we're going to focus on this bit at the top, the awareness. So I'm just going to go through a few different, I'm going to jump around and go through a few different things, and I'm only going to literally touch on some of these in one bullet point because I want to get into the really good stuff that the guys at Sky have got. But just in terms of that audience measurement piece, pretty much all of the platforms from a social media point of view have got some way of measuring the impact of our brand awareness and reach advertising. So even though we're selecting objectives that may sound fairly woolly and vague, there's lots of data we kind of get back in terms of what impacts they've had. So for example, LinkedIn is very good at giving us demographic reporting. There's 8 different demographic attributes that we can kind of cut data by, things like job function, the country, the industry. And we can see what had the highest number of views, for example, where the impressions went and where the actual, whether it was clicks or views or anything, happened, to see what was the most reactive segments of our audience. So that gives us some real insight into maybe our next targeting brief, or it might influence our future messaging. So it's meaningful data that you can kind of feed back into both your creative and your kind of targeting. There's also something that you just don't get on traditional linear TV, and that's things like being able to review our view-through rates. And I'm sure Gareth will touch on kind of view through for Sky AdSmart. But in particular with some of the social stuff, we can see how many people get to 25%, 50%, 75%, and 100% of our video. And that's really useful for us to know, because again, it feeds back into your creative. Where do you need to put your messaging? Like, how important is the first kind of 25% of your video going to be? And it also lets you know if you're boring people. If you've got a massive drop off after a certain percentage, then you're probably talking for too long, or they're losing interest, or you're not compelling enough. So all of that data, again, and insight can feed back into a creative brief that you couldn't necessarily have got before with something like linear TV. And then if you are spending fairly decent sums of money in Facebook and Instagram particularly, they do have things like a brand lift experiment. So once your ad account has gone past a certain level of qualifying spend, and I think it's 18,500. They put everything in dollars, so I've done a rough conversion. It's about £18,500. You can do what's called a brand lift experiment, and that's these screenshots that I've got on the right hand side here. And what they allow you to do is basically run polls to understand. Some of you might have even been served these, but they help you understand whether, in its simplest terms, did someone actually remember seeing an ad? So you can get an idea of your brand or your ad recall. But you can also get more kind of sentiment-based stuff there as well, in terms of, are people more likely to buy a product, or are people more likely to recommend? And there's a small selection of questions that you can choose from, and you can ask kind of more than one. And you basically run these and get some idea of the impact to your advertising. The way it works is that it runs a holdout test effectively. It will take your audience and it will take a certain proportion who have definitely been served the ad versus a portion that haven't. They definitely haven't been served the ad. And that's how it measures that kind of uplift and reliability. So there's little things like that. And this is what I mean, that this was almost, if you were doing this kind of stuff on linear TV a few years ago, you brought in a research agency potentially to kind of do this stuff for you. And it was an additional cost on top of your marketing efforts. Whereas now you can almost get it as a byproduct of just what you spend. So audience filtration. This kind of goes on the principle that our audience might be quite broad at the awareness stage. And we want it to be quite broad because we want to reach as many people as we possibly can en masse. So we might keep our targeting definitions relatively simple. But that doesn't mean that that's not got some kind of use further down the line. And what we quite often do is start with a campaign like video views or engagement when we're briefed with awareness. And because of things like Facebook and YouTube have the ability for us to then take the people from that broad audience who engage with our video content or watch certain percentages, that then becomes our audience for the next stage of our campaign. And it's really effective in terms of being able to kind of weed out the people from that mass audience, the people who are really interested and are worth pursuing as potential customers. Because you may start with an audience of a few million and run a video views campaign where you can then take just anyone who watched 50% or more of your video and turn them into the audience for your next traffic campaign. The reason that kind of helps is we might not know the specifics of our audience when we first start. Obviously, the platforms have a huge amount of potential in terms of the different options we have to target interest, behaviors, and demographics. And actually, we might end up excluding people if we start too narrow. We can often end up excluding whole pools of customers that could have been quite valuable for us. And so by having this kind of broad start and then filtering it down from there, we make sure that we're getting the maximum possible amount of interest through our campaigns. So that's how that kind of works. So a real kind of whistle-stop tour through a few basic principles of how you take awareness, make it measurable, and then use it to properly feed other activity further down that kind of funnel or journey. Just to give you an idea of I'm not a massive fan of this, because I think it's just a mental slide, but it does give you a really good idea of when you're looking at a digital marketing mix. It's really obvious to think of Google and Facebook and YouTube, but there's a huge array of channels out there. This isn't a kind of a definite table, but it kind of gives you an idea of what channels can start to do what kind of jobs for you, used in the right combination. And quite often what we do is, for most of our clients, use a whole mix of these based on their objectives. So it's a huge landscape. We are going to touch particularly on this one down here at the bottom, Sky AdSmart. We put it in this kind of technical and hybrid category, because it's not linear TV, but it's not pure video on demand either, and it's a really exciting kind of middle ground between the two that Gareth's going to do a far better job of talking about than I could. So, without further ado, on to Gareth Bakewell.
Good morning, all, and thank you, Chris, and thank you, Anne, for inviting Celine and I over. What I'll do is I'll share my screen, and I'll take through the. Okay, give me echo again. So I know I'm recording the presentation happening straight over at the end of today. So Sky AdSmart, Sky itself, about a year ago now, was bought by Comcast NBC. So there was a big fight between Comcast and Disney. One of the reasons behind it was Sky AdSmart. Sky AdSmart is purely Sky UK's baby. It's our IP. We created it. We owned it. There's nothing like it in Europe. And as you can imagine, there's 300 million Americans. Once you can get some targeted TV advertising over there, it could well be a game changer. It's obviously made us a little bit stronger. We were bought for $39 billion. The group turns over just shy of $100 billion. So I know it's very, very tough times for a lot of companies now, but hopefully the power of Comcast and Sky combined has now given us a big ship to weather, and also the chance to pivot quite well to help small and large customers alike while we've got a bit of a captive audience. It, of course, has helped the combination of numbers as far as audience figures goes and as far as monetary amount goes. One of the good things with AdSmart, on that bottom right-hand side that says 75% view before charged, it's probably the strongest thing we have. So an AdSmart advert doesn't have to be 30 seconds, by the way. It can be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Most adverts are 30 seconds long. With Sky AdSmart, your customer or your client's customer must watch 75% of the advert at normal speed without being charged. So there's no fast forwarding, there's no flicking channels. Basically, if you push the remote control during the advert, your client's not going to be charged for it. So whereas some of the digital channels and some of the different websites, as soon as you've got to the of Annika Digital, you've been charged for it. Sky have never thought that's fair, especially because the vast majority of AdSmart customers have probably got £10,000 to £80,000 a year as far as their marketing budget goes. So we need to ensure that we can get that return on investment and that cost per acquisition to make sure that some of these small customers or the small companies can compete on a level playing field with the big boys. It is, of course, on the big screen. Sky AdSmart adverts are shown live and recorded via the Sky or Virgin box. I will go over a bit more details in it, but as a very short whistle stop, if you're a Sky or Virgin customer, your viewing card is now totally separate to every other Sky and Virgin customer across the country. All we then do is, as a client, you decide who you want to target. So if we're looking for Annika Digital as an example, I'm looking for company owners in Leicester, Derby, Nottingham, for instance. What Sky AdSmart allows you to do is specifically target company owners and directors in those postcodes. You give us the information at the top of the funnel. At the bottom of the funnel comes out household universe, which is just the number of houses that match. You decide how long you want the campaign to run for. Doesn't cost any more whether it's 1 or 2 months, because we charge on guaranteed views of the advert. So once the advert's played out, your Skybox looks back over 30 seconds. If you've touched the remote control or you fast forwarded it, it deletes the impression. The next thing it does is looks back over about an hour. If nothing's happened in that hour, it deletes the impression. It thinks you've left the telly on by mistake, the dog's watching it. You have to hit a number of parameters before Sky charge you, so we can ensure that you have got those guaranteed views. So as touched on, you may find that some of different online capacities will just bombard you with fake news, or the key thing that we tend to find is that brand safe environment. It's taken all of you a number of years to build up your company's reputation. Potentially it takes a minute to lose it. We had an example a few months ago where Starburst had just released their new fruity snacks. It was in the middle of a drill music video. Lots of pretend gangsters with balaclavas and fake guns. Mars pulled out £5 million straight away. The worst was the year before that, and Head and Shoulders had an advert. It was in the middle of a beheading video. It matched the word head. So you can imagine the uproar that was caused by that. So by advertising on Sky, yes, we have the power of the content levels that we pay, but we can also ensure that your company is perceived in that brand safe environment. So although everyone loves skateboarding cats, don't get me wrong, would you like your advert and your company represented in the middle of a skateboarding cat, or some quality content? We know Game of Thrones has finished, but you can imagine that Sky have got a lot of their originals coming out. A lot of the big films come first on Sky, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Premier League football and sport isn't too far around the corner. So you can advertise on all of those. Now, I hear it every single day, and I'm sure you'll hear it from customers or clients. No one watches live TV anymore. No one watches adverts. We had a bit of information from Barb. So that's the company that gets all the data for television. Nothing to do with us. So on the left-hand side, in 2008, there was an average of 3.5 hours per household viewing television every day. The big green chunk is live TV. So the orange bit being TV playback, so Sky Plus for those that have Sky, or where you can record something live and watch it at a later date. Of course, times have changed. So broadcaster VOD, so iPlayer, iTV on demand, etc. And then subscription VOD being Netflix, Amazon Prime. So yes, they're taking a little chunk out of live TV. But as you can see, we're still viewing about 3.5 hours TV a day, of which about 2.5 hours of this is live TV. It does depend what you're watching, by the way. Of course, on the far right, the live sport, most people will watch sport live. You don't need your friends to tell you the score or who's won a specific tournament. On the flip side, on the far left, I've not watched a Sky film live for a number of years. So it will allow you to look at where the live viewing is. But don't forget, if your advert appears on Sky Cinema, because the person you want is watching Sky Cinema and they don't watch the advert, you don't get charged. It's one of the best things about it. And really, if you take nothing else away from this, remember that 75% you must watch before you get charged for your advert. So as far as the video day, broadcaster still accounts for about 69%. So 52% being live TV, which, brutally honest, it amazes me. I'm nowhere near 52% live TV. I will sit in that orange 12% playback. But the benefit of AdSmart is that they'll still get me. If you're, for instance, a linear advert is just a normal advert on TV. So if Annika decided at 7:15 p.m. Sky One, they're going to have the Annika advert. If you're not watching at 7:15 p.m. on Sky One, you've missed it. With AdSmart, the Annika advert gets sent to my box, and then the Sky box waits for me to watch it. The system knows I'm watching television. It gets sent a hint code, and the Annika digital advert plays out. So there's not this, did it work, lick our finger, stick it in the air, how many people saw it. We can now specifically track who saw it, what time of day, what genre of channel. And as I go into it a bit more depth, we can also break that down into return on investment, cost per acquisition. So it gives us that collaborative element of TV and also the power of digital to target. It's even more as far as advertising. As mentioned, you may find that some will always skip adverts, some will flick. The reason that live TV tends to be a bit better, one is because we're brought up on it, but the majority of us have been alive since perhaps Channel 4 started having adverts. If you're lucky, since Channel 5 started, but I think there's a few of us are older than that. But one thing I'd ask you to ask your customers or your clients is to think of an advert. Don't mention the word TV, but if you think of an advert yourself, the vast majority will default to a TV advert. Mine was the orange tango man running about slapping people 15 years ago. It's very, very rare that you see someone, oh, the best advert I've seen was the Nutri man on the back of a bus. Great advert, but it's that impactful element of making sure that the TV sat in the middle of the house, everyone watches it. And as much as I love YouTube and other surrounding facilities, the issue we find with YouTube, I want to watch my video. When it comes 3, 2, 1, skip ad, skip ad, skip ad, that's all everyone's doing. Well, the vast majority is that what everyone's doing. Yet, once you've had that first second of the advert, you or your client has been charged for it, which is where AdSmart is a bit different.
Some exciting news just in for advertisers. AdSmart from Sky has now signed over 1,000 local and growing businesses just like yours to advertise in world-class content. And now you can join the club. More and more brands are making the big transfer into addressable TV through AdSmart. Businesses of all shapes and sizes are benefiting from the unrivaled advertising impact of TV, speaking just to the homes that matter to them. And it's for a lot less than you might think. Premier League impact for lower league budgets. Nothing lands a new idea with more power and impact than TV. So if you could advertise only to the people that matter to your business and only pay when those ads are seen, well, that would be a good result, wouldn't it? Whether that idea is to get people to buy your product, visit your store, or begin a journey of discovery before buying online, TV has an unassailable ability to drive both fame and sales. To start your rise to the top of the table, visit AdSmart from sky.co.uk.
It's about time Sky started tapping into some of their talent, isn't it, really? So any sport lovers will certainly have missed Jim White on television there. But as mentioned, by all means, share the videos. When we transfer this around, you can share it across there. But we hope that it gives people a bit of an inclination as to what Sky AdSmart can do. So in layman's terms, it sits in the middle. You've got the fact that people will still watch that nice big 50-inch TV rather than a 3-inch TV screen. You've got the fact it's a brand safe environment, but digital, hands up, was always better at targeting and it was always better at tracking responses. That's where AdSmart's come in. So rather than just spending £10,000 on an advert and hoping it works, we will be able to tell you the number of views have seen, the time and the day. We need you to help. You need to help by correlating that with your Google Analytics or whichever analytics forum that you use. But what we can do, in a little addition to what Chris mentioned earlier, at the end of a campaign, this is open to everyone, by the way, give us perhaps a month when the campaign's finished. What we then allow you to do is you can upload, nothing to me, by the way, for GDPR reasons, but you can upload an Excel spreadsheet with a minimum of 2 columns. Column 1 is the first line of address. Column 2 is the postcode. So we want nothing to do with names, again, for obvious reasons. What this allows you to do is if you upload names, address and postcode, we will then tell you who has contacted you and who saw the ad. If you want to put something about sales data or inquiry data, we can then break it down further. So if your 10,000 people saw the advert, 5,000 contacted you, 1,000 sold, this is the money that was made for it. So we can give you a specific return on the investment or a cost per acquisition. The other thing it allows you to do, because we can target geographically. So again, I'll use Annika as an example. We look at LE, NG, DE postcodes to start with. Hopefully it's been a really good success. What we can then do, we simply run the same advert in B, CV, WR postcodes as an example. You don't keep having to make the same advert over and over again or keep updating it. The problem that we find with a lot of adverts is once you've seen it 10 or 15 times, you know the guy with the big moustache who's singing Go Compare what he's doing. You know what Russian Meerkats is going to be about. What we need to ensure is that we can get the direct message to the relevant targets for your company. The other good thing that AdSmart does is it supersedes a linear advert. So an AdSmart advert, because it's targeted, will always be first or second in the commercial break. Now, brutal honesty, it benefits us. If I'm a business owner in Leicester looking for some help digitally marketing and I see the Annika advert, I obviously then watch the rest of the adverts. The flick rate drops, it benefits us. It benefits the big boys behind you. So after Annika, you're going to get a McDonald's advert, a Carlsberg advert. The change rate drops, so people tend to watch that more. And of course, I'm hoping it benefits Annika because not only are they first on a TV channel, but it gives you that gravitas of, wow, they're on TV, they must be good. If I'm watching Premier League football, theoretically, it can cost £100,000 to advertise on that. Because AdSmart, I'm looking for the person, not the channel, it allows us to target much, much more specifically. Now, this 5 years and forward, AdSmart is now 5 years old. This white paper gives you a little bit of information on what's happened in 5 years, a bit of information on what we think is going to happen in the near future. This was all prior to COVID, by the way, so there's nothing about coronavirus in there. We have got a couple of different editions for that, but it gives you a really nice story on how targeted advertising has changed the landscape a little bit. Now, as far as the AdSmart audience go, that second one, 74% of all of our customers have never done TV before. The reason being, as Anne mentioned in her poll, it's perceived as expensive. You had to spend 100 grand to be on Game of Thrones. You had to spend 100 grand to be on Premier League football. So theoretically, the wastage was high and the introductory costs were high. With AdSmart, we have two minimums. So the first minimum, the advert must go to 5,000 households. It's a legal requirement. So although I know all about Anne, I know where she lives, I know what she watches, I don't, by the way, I'm not specifically allowed to target Anne's house. The other minimum is a £3,000 spend. So as long as you hit 5,000 households and £3,000, you can get a TV campaign up and running from there. And hopefully, so you can see, yeah, there are, don't get me wrong, there are some big boys that advertise on AdSmart. Here's a little selection. For instance, Mercedes are one of our biggest advertisers. What Mercedes do is they run 3 adverts consecutively. One advert for the new people carrier goes to households with families. One advert for the brand new AMG Mercedes goes to people that are making £100,000 a year plus. The advert for the hybrid green technology Mercedes go to those people that have an environmentally conscious mind. And very, very rarely will they cross over. So although Mercedes are spending a very large amount with us, they are splitting it down to their target audience. Because as a father of 2 young children, going out and spending 150 grand on an AMG Merc is probably not going to happen for me unless all of you sign up to AdSmart, and then we may be able to do something. But you can imagine, by targeting the relevant household with the relevant message, decreases wastage and allows you to get the best return on your investment. When I do send these over, by the way, all of these adverts are live, so by all means click on them and have a look. But as a very brief example, you can imagine Banana Moon is a day nursery. They look for children less than 4 years old to go to nursery. If that was on the vast majority of most mediums, the weightage would be huge. Even Sky, if you put that on Sky One, you can imagine that very few families have got a 0 to 4 year old child that's relevant for Banana Moon. What we've done for them is every household within a 10-minute drive time with a 0 to 4 year old child with Sky or Virgin has seen that advert. So firstly, the wastage is virtually minimal, because unless you've left it on by mistake, you have seen the advert and you've got a child that's relevant for it. The Elf advert was 5 to 11 years old. Adventure World, again, it's a children's sort of working farm. As a different example, Easy Pet Care at the bottom left, we're looking for dog owners. So again, you can imagine the wastage. I don't have a dog. I've never seen the Easy Pet Care advert. So we can really ensure that your message is going to the relevant target market. At the moment, we are inundated with colleges and universities because they still don't know about getting the next level of clearing in or next year's allocation. They are targeting teenagers, school leavers, all within their catchment area. It's one of our biggest areas at the moment. And we are now starting to see a few green shoots of recovery, a little bit of bounce back from companies who are looking to get their targeting up and running.
They've been established since 1982. Any side of your home heating they can help you with, from gas boiler installations, services, repairs and cover plans. The new customers Gasway are looking for really is anyone who owns a home, anyone who wakes up in the morning and needs hot water, or goes to bed needing heating. One thing we're looking for specifically is that those people are homeowners. AdSmart is perfect for that, as it can single out a much more sniped approach, and so that we only put our advert in front of those demographics. We'd always assumed that TV advertising was way out of our budget and really never investigated it. So Gasway decided to use AdSmart as part of its marketing strategy, really from the first conversations from Andy from AdSmart, and at that point we realised that it was actually something that we could afford to do. We had record sales for that month, and essentially that's what every marketeer wants to see. But the level, the increase in sales wasn't what anyone would be expected. We had over 35% growth. Every single metric that we can think of, every single KPI that we have were at record levels for that month. And as a result of that, we've gone from 1 month of AdSmart last financial year to having it 10 months of this financial year. AdSmart has a fantastic flexibility built in that means we can target specific postcodes. If one of the departments says we need more business in this area, as our engineers need more work, what we're able to do with AdSmart is say we need more coverage in this area, these postcodes, and that can happen. If you are a business like Gasway, who initially believed that TV advertising is beyond your reach, get that myth dispelled straight away. It is affordable, and it is targeted, and it is probably the single most effective use of our marketing budget that we've had since the company began.
Now, I know we're all not heating engineers, by the way, but you can imagine that Sky has over 1,200 different targeting parameters. So if you think about your individual companies or some clients that you may represent and potentially think about what their ideal audience may be, by all means, contact Anne, contact me, and we can specifically tell you, look, your 25 to 35-year-old women in Leicester making 50 grand a year plus is this number. We can target those specific households so we can really refine it and laser target your exact market that's going to get you the best return on investment when hopefully we're allowed outside again. There's 4 things you need. Now, the ability to scale. Look, if you're at 100% capacity, congratulations. You don't need me. You don't need anybody. So you need to be able to have that ability to get a bit more business through. As far as content goes, Sky spend more than ITV, Channel 4 combined on content. Look, a lot of it's sport, a lot of it's Premier League football, but whatever your customers or your clients' customers are looking for, we're hoping there's always something on Sky. There's a lot of new releases, there's a brand new film every day. As mentioned, when the sport does come up and running, you can imagine at the moment, our viewing figures are through the roof. It's not what we want to see, Sky, we would like not to be. But currently, because of the captive audience, our viewing figures are the best they've ever been. The data, Sky have got a lot of data. We do then partner with a number of third parties that I'll go into a little bit more in depth. Gives you a bit more of a holistic approach, and you can really refine your targeting. And then the technology, very, very intelligent in the way that it knows you're watching television, so it will only play the advert when you're watching, which decreases wastage. Very, very dumb in the way that it doesn't know what channel you're watching. We know they're all brand safe, but if you're watching the Sunday football or the brand new film on Friday, theoretically, an Annika digital advert can be played in that time whereas somebody else would have to pay £100,000 to guarantee it and is on there for £3,000. Now, we've always had Sky, forgive the horrible word, AdSmartable. So Sky households have always been AdSmartable. Sky joined partners with Virgin, last June, July. It's been fully up and running now. So if you are a Virgin customer, you probably had a letter sometime last year saying, do you want a brand new Virgin box for free? The reason being was us. It's because the new Virgin boxes are also AdSmartable. So they can sit, the advert can wait for them to watch. So currently, it's in about 40%, slightly more, but about 40% of households. As a very broad rule of thumb, you do tend to find that people have paid for TV have a little bit more expendable income. There's always the exception, by the way. There's always the council house with a 70-inch TV and no bookcase. But we do tend to find that those that pay for their TV subscription have a little bit more money coming in on a month-by-month basis. We were currently, before COVID, spreading out across Now TV. Now TV is Sky's own IP. So it's basically your pay-as-you-go system. If you don't have Sky on a full-time basis, you rent Now TV. Again, probably the latter part of this year, when we can do the thorough testing, Now TV is going to be on board. And I'd have thought middle of next year, we're going to have YouView, and some of these other casting devices. So by the end of next year, maybe start of 2022, Sky AdSmart will be able to be played in 60% of all UK households. So as far as the data goes, yes, Sky know a bit, don't get me wrong. We know who pays the bill. We know the household composition. We know how long you've been there. What we then do is we partner with a number of third-party providers. By far the biggest is Experian. So hopefully most of you have either used it or are aware of it. We use Experian mosaics. So there's 16 different groups and 64 types. It basically puts every single household in the UK into an Experian type, whether that be on the age of the occupants, the income, the household composition. Lots of technical data that's far too technical for me to understand, but they've been our strongest partner from day one. dunnhumby do Tesco club cards. So again, we can track what people are buying from there. So if you have a dog food advert, we can look at the people that have bought dog food at Tesco. Hopefully they've got a dog, or times are pretty tough if they're buying dog food at Tesco. MasterCard, we tend to find a lot of vehicle servicing, or especially holidays are booked on MasterCard. So if you're booking a holiday in January, for instance, every year, we know that you're going to start seeing holiday adverts in December, because we know you're going to start booking in January. Again, all this is pre-COVID, so I know there'll be a few changes after it, but the theoretical fundamentals stay the same. 20CI is a really nice one. 20CI does all house moving data. So we obviously use it for estate agents, because as soon as you go on to Rightmove, Zoopla, what are these portals, and say, oh, I like this house, it comes on to 20CI. So we know you're looking to move, or at least considering it. So we'll either, to start with, send you estate agents and new house builder adverts. You can then move further down the line than when you're looking to move and literally a week or two away, and we send you storage adverts for storage companies or removals. When you've moved into the house, 3 to 6 months, you'll start seeing adverts for new bathroom, new tiles, home furnishings. So you can see we really try and track that. There's no point looking for an estate agent advert when you've been in the house for 6 months. So that's where the wastage is minimal. Emma's Diary, when you or your partner is pregnant with your child, you get your little red book. That little red book then tracks from when you're pregnant all the way to your child is 17, 364 days. That's what we use for Emma's Diary. So as touched on before, I had a company called Snooze Pod. Snooze Pod do quite nice, quite high-end little cots that go at the side of the parent's bed when your baby's first born. You can imagine if that was on Sky, ITV, a few websites, the wastage would be huge, because very few people have got a 0 to 6 month old child. All we did were targeted households with a pregnant lady or a 0 to 6 month child. So that's what I'm saying about the wastage can really be minimalized. You can overlay all of these, by the way. So if your client is looking for someone that's just moved into Leicestershire, has a 3-year-old child and has an Xbox, not a problem. We overlay them, and at the bottom of the funnel comes the household number. So much more technical than me. So all your viewing cards are separate. All your data is stored on that viewing card. The advert then gets sent to that box by the satellite and sits and waits. It just waits. We can hold up to 400 adverts at any one point on any Sky box. When we know you're watching it, we will send a hint code to the satellite, send it to the box, and then the Anika Digital, or whichever advert it is, it plays frame by frame over the linear advert. So people that live in the same street, 6 neighbours could well be seeing 6 very different adverts, but you don't know about it because they just sit frame by frame. It's why I would always recommend a 30-second advert. 80% of normal TV adverts are 30 seconds long. So the fact that Sky AdSmart's got to find one to sit over frame by frame, if you can make a 30-second advert, it's going to get a lot more opportunities for it to be seen. 10-second adverts aren't bad because it can get you a quick message and quick out. I would never recommend doing a 40 or 50-second advert. The reason being, there's not that many of them to sit over the top of. So rather than the advert's got to sit in the box and wait and wait and wait, do a 30-second advert. If you need some help with this, by the way, we understand that the vast majority of our customers have never even looked at making a TV advert. It's something that either Sky is starting to help with this COVID initiative that I'll go into, or although we don't make adverts, we can put you in touch with either a company that can help you, a company that can guide you, either animation or live footage or whatever needs to be done. Whatever you want to sit down and say, look, this is the advert I need. Can you help me? I know it can be quite daunting thinking, God, how do I get a TV advert on TV? It's exactly how AdSmart help, which is why 3 in 4 of our customers have never done TV before. So forgive the dodgy 8-bit graphics, but it's a normal street. They're all Sky customers. We can now tell you who owns their own home, who's got a certain type of car, who makes a bit more money than their neighbours. There are so many different ways to do it. Because we spend so much on content, we're hoping that there's always something that you or your clients or your customers want to watch. So yeah, a lot of it's sport, but the new Sky Originals, the Chernobyl, last year won numerous awards. We are making a lot more. We bought a studio at Elstree, so it's only going to get more. So what we'd hope is when this brand new series comes in, or Game of Thrones is a great example. I had a couple of my advertisers saw their advert on Game of Thrones. Their clients are so impressed because it must have cost hundreds of thousands. It cost them $3,000. They were still sat on Game of Thrones or things like this.
Something that has never occurred on this planet before.
No one knows where their story is going.
I'd be lying if I said TV hasn't changed things for me. That should be £2.55, please. I just wish I'd done it sooner.
Everything is awesome.
We've got home advantage.
Looks like it's going to be a vintage year for the business.
We'd always assumed that TV advertising was way out of our budget. We had over 35% growth. Every single KPI that we have were at record levels for that month. It is probably the single most effective use of our marketing budget that we've had since the company began.
I think doing these presentations, I must have promoted Gasway more than any other company. They're based in Norwich, so I don't know why they're always on mine. But as you can see, whether it be the channel they're watching or the content that they're watching or people that thought that the weightage would be too high, we can now really target it down and ensure that you're getting the best bang for your buck. The other thing is AdSmart do not charge premiums for the channel. So you can see there's a couple of examples of channels here, but the top right, Sky Sports Main Event, is where a lot of the Sky money is spent. If I'm watching that and I'm relevant for Anika Digital, the Anika Digital advert will play when I'm watching the Premier League football. If I'm watching, forgive me, whatever the hell MTV OMG is, the advert will play. I'm watching the television. That's what they need to say. We can slightly change it. If you have a very much a male or female focused product, we can put them on the, forgive me, male or female focused program. So the football or the sport may be on the male one with the cars. Some of the fashion ones may be female. I know it's sexist judging, so I apologize for that. But we can allow you, if you're thinking, well, I'm selling dresses, do I want to be on Premier League football? I'm sure there's lots of women who are watching it, but we can allow you to target your specific market. But you can imagine, whereas before you'd have to say to me, okay, we're selling golf clubs, let's go on Sky Sports Golf. What I can now do is put your golf club advert on every single one of those channels, so you don't have to pick anymore. So all the Sky suites there. We then work with Viacom. So Viacom do Channel 5, Comedy Central, MTV. And from, it was going to be the latter part of this year, but it may be the latter part of this year, the start of next, we're going to have the adverts on Channel 4. So Channel 4, Channel 5, every Sky channel, basically not BBC for obvious reasons, and not ITV, because they're trying to do their own thing. Apart from that, your message can be on every other channel that people are watching. So without teaching you to suck eggs too much, I know you've all been doing this before, but as far as building an audience goes, we have some fixed segments. So the fixed segments, yeah, you experience Mosaic, you're in one or you're not. The household composition, you've either got kids or you haven't. You can see across there. So these are our fixed. How much do you make? Do you own home? Have you got a new iPhone 10, 11, whatever it might be? So they're the fixed ones. As far as geographical goes, these first two come with our minimums. So again, £3,000 spend, 5,000 households the advert's got to go to. On the far left, so Barb regions, if your client's done ITV advertising before and loves Central, fine. We'll just put it over the Central region. That's not a problem at all. If you're looking at a metropolitan area, so we're looking at Leicester, Nottingham, Derby, we can isolate those, or local authorities. The middle one, so postcode, is the first letters. So we can look at LE, DE, NG. All those, by the way, those are for our minimums. The far right one, the catchment area, that comes with a caveat. So that one has a 30,000 minimum spend. The reason being it's very technical. What that allows us to do is you put a pin in a location and we can do either a radius or a drive time. It works really well for maybe furniture stores or the quick fits of this world, because they can only have, let's say, a 10-mile radius before another store has got that area. So we can isolate the different catchment areas for each store. It does come with a £30,000 minimum spend. There is a little way around it. What some companies have done is given us perhaps 10 different stores. Those 10 stores have all got a 5-mile radius around themselves. Those 10 stores spend £3,000 each. That's how you can get to 30,000 as well. There is something upcoming, perhaps in another month or two. Apologies for being a bit wishy-washy, but COVID's put all our timescales back, as I'm sure it has for everybody else. But we're about to do, perhaps next month, something called a Geo Box. Now, what the Geo Box will do is it will put a 4-sided square over a location. So I could do it over Anne's offices in Leicester, and I can just expand that square until we either get to a radius that Anne wants or a monetary amount she wants. That will come under our £3,000 minimum spend. So it's going to be a game changer, because I can literally say to Anne, your premises in LE4, LE1, sorry, whatever the postcode might be, I'll put a 2-mile box around it, and I can only target those people. So especially ones that have got a delivery service or something that they would drive to, something I would certainly consider is doing that side. Now, apologies, it looks a bit technical, this one. It's not, by the way. I can help you with this. It just gives a little example. If we just look at the audience code 14802, it says Gareth Test 3. So we were looking February for 30 days. As mentioned, it doesn't matter how long the campaign runs for, by the way. We always recommend 30 days because it tends to get the message over well enough for the vast amount of budget. So the household universe was just over 18,000. The target impressions was just under 100,000. So an impression is just a guaranteed view. It's where you've seen the advert over 75% of the time. So this audience of 18,000, if you go a few along, it says average frequency 7. That's recommended, by the way. We recommend 7 views per household per month. Don't bother doing too many more than that. The reason being, it works out as sort of like a peak and a trough. If you think about it, if you watch a TV advert you haven't seen before, you might watch it once or twice and think, oh, I've never heard of them. The third, fourth or fifth time you start to do something, you're starting to look on your iPhone or your iPad. The sixth or seventh time is that then call to action. You've looked at it, it's got rid of your concerns, you've been online, you've done something. So that's where we'd recommend 7. If you see it 15 times, you get to that go compare scenario. I know all about the advert. I don't want to know about it again, so I flick. So 18,000 in the household times by 7, you can see the maths doesn't quite work to get to 100,000 impressions. The reason being that estimated 1+ reach that says 77%. There will always be people that fast forward adverts or change the channel. There always has been and there always will. We are aware of it. We will not charge you for it. So we take it into account. So of that household universe of 18,000, if let's say 16,000 see the advert 7 times, that's where you get to 100,000 views. And that's a £5,000 budget. This is just generic, by the way. It's nothing specific, but it gives you an idea. It works out somewhere between about 3.5 and 7 pence per guaranteed view. So for easy maths, we've got 10,000 houses that match what we look for. They see the advert 6 times each. We charge them 5 pence per guaranteed view. So of 60,000 impressions, charged 5 pence, that's how you get to our £3,000 minimum. You tend to find most first advertisers, by the way, spend about 7.5 to 10. So you, by all means, you can do a £3,000 campaign, but it's not the be-all and end-all. But you can see that audience definition. By the time we get to it, we've added local authorities. We're looking at Birmingham, Walsall, Wolverhampton. You've got to be 25 to 55. You've got to have a child. You've got to have a certain affluence band. So by overlaying and overlaying, you can really drill down to your specific target audience, whether that be by, I've got this budget, what can I do? Or whether it be by, I want to target these different areas, how much is it going to cost? So we can break it down left, right and centre. One thing I'd always recommend...
Gareth,
yes.
let me just interrupt you. We're just coming up to 10 o'clock, and I know from previous experience we do get quite a lot of people that have other appointments at 10. Have you got a lot more slides, or do we need to talk about the SME?
Right, what I'll do is, so the key thing being 75% viewability. What I will also do, if you want any specific questions to go through Anne or to come to me, we do offer loads of planning and reporting during the campaign, so you can see who's seen it, and at the end of the campaign to break down return on investment, and you can start looking at playing the next one. The last thing I'll do then is just briefly touch on this SME 100 initiative that Sky have got. Let me just, hopefully you can all see this screen. So it's something that Sky have released a couple of days ago, fully aware of the issues people are going to have bouncing back from COVID. Sky have got a £1 million support scheme. What we're looking to do is pick roughly 100 SMEs. So as an SME, perhaps between 2 and 50 employees, and AdSmart will provide you with a free TV campaign. We can discuss targeting options. We can look at loads of different things. Ideally, you would have some sort of TV advert or some sort of video footage that can be made quite easily. If not, doesn't matter, let me know, and I can certainly talk to the powers that be about it. But if you just look at this AdSmart from sky.co.uk/SME100, at the bottom of it gives a little link to apply, and it tells you a little bit about the qualifying requirements. I would certainly look into investigating it. We're looking at 100. We've had 400 inquiries already. There's going to be 1,000, but we're taking on board localities, different areas, and that really is about me. Any queries? I'm looking at questions, Ethan, Anne, or people need to know.
Yes. If you could unshare your screen, if you could stop sharing. Yep. I'm going to just bring up the slides again. Yeah, there's a couple of things. You mentioned that you can use it for B2B, but you didn't specifically say how the targeting works. So just interested in hearing a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, so we would do senior decision makers within companies. We've got 1 to 50 employees or 50 employees plus. These senior decision makers would be MDs, CEOs, depending on the size of the company. If it's 1 to 50, it'll probably be that. If it's over 50, we might look at chief technical officers, chief marketing officers. We get a lot of data from either Experian or from Companies House, so we can see who the directors of these specific companies are.
And I'm guessing some of the directors and business owners are probably going to be higher net worth anyway, so they probably will come up in the mosaic. Yeah.
Very much, yeah. Prestige positions and prosperity.
I just wanted to ask Chris a question with regards to the cost. You might have to mute Gareth just because of the echo. But Chris, how does 5 pence per view compare with some of the paid social that we do?
Yeah, I mean, Gareth kind of touched on it. Facebook have cost per through play, which is slightly better because that's obviously a 15-second view. But to kind of put it into perspective, you could see something like a 1 to 3p cost per view on LinkedIn. The difference is that LinkedIn charge a view, and their definition of a view is 50% in frame for 2 seconds. So you can see how that differs to what Gareth's kind of saying of you're on this massive TV, there's no other distractions on the screen, and you're looking at kind of 75%. So it's a massive difference, and you're not judging like for like. So even though it's maybe 2 or 3p more expensive, the definition of a view, in my opinion, is a lot more closer to what you actually want a user to do than you get in like the likes of YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook.
Okay. And I mean, really, if you're already doing paid media and you've got a sensible budget, maybe you're already spending a couple of grand a month. One of the major advantages of doing something like Sky is that if you can get your brand out there, getting people to search on your brand is significantly cheaper than if you're doing something like Google Ads than it is if they're searching for products and services. So it does have quite an integrated approach. So would you advocate just doing a Sky ad, or would you advocate more of an integrated approach, Chris?
No, this is the thing. So obviously today is about Sky, and Sky is an incredible platform, but marketing, digital marketing, any kind of marketing is at its best when you've got a mix of channels in there. So if you're going to do Sky AdSmart, then yeah, absolutely, you should be supporting that with paid search campaigns, because like Gareth said, what do you do when you see an ad? You pick up your iPad or your phone and you do a search, and you probably then you don't go to necessarily a full URL, but you just do a quick Google search of the brand name. So what you want to be, obviously, is the first result back. And if that means supporting it with paid search, there is also that idea of, yes, you've got them, they've watched this incredible ad on Sky AdSmart. You want to keep in their mind. And although, yes, we're spending a lot more time at home in kind of a more normal world, you want to follow them around a bit. And that does mean using a mixture of channels, probably online and offline, to just keep nudging them until the next time they sit down in front of the TV. So yeah, you should never just rely on one channel to do your entire marketing job for you. I don't think you're going to get a huge amount of success if you do that.
And
just as a quick look into that, by the way, we totally agree. Don't give AdSmart all of your money. I'm going to get shot for saying it, but the best way to get a response is to combine it. Yes, you'll see the AdSmart advert, but then people still go into Google, so you need to use it as part of a holistic approach. But the other thing is that once you've got the video that can be used on AdSmart, it can then be used on social media, on Twitter, on Facebook. Use that advert.
I was going to just say that. I mean, if you're going to be spending £5,000 to £10,000 producing a high quality video, you're going to want to produce other content that can be used for social media. And I think if you go onto the Annika webinars, the section on the Annika site where we got all the webinars, Chris actually talked about this in quite a lot of detail 2 weeks ago, so you should be able to get the recording of that. Have you got any advice, Chris, on production from a point of view of when you employ somebody to try and make sure you get all the content rather than just the final product?
Yeah, I think it comes down to your brief. and being really clear with whether it's a freelancer or an agency, whoever you're kind of using, being really clear on your brief and your requirements, so there's no kind of nasty surprises. If you say, I just want a 30-second advert, then all they will deliver you for Sky AdSmart is a 30-second advert, 16:9, ready for Clearcast approval. If you want to have a few cuts of that will work in Instagram stories, put it in the brief. Let your creative agency know where you want to advertise, and that's when they're going to give you the most complete and accurate cost, and it's going to lead to a lot less frustration both on their part and yours, because you're going to be really both aligned in terms of where this is going to end up and what its purpose is. It kind of goes into what I did explain a couple of weeks ago. They may come up with the most incredible VO for you for your Sky AdSmart ad, and that's great because no one watches their TV on mute. Behavior is very different in social, and if you need it subtitled, then that's a slight different requirement that you need to let them know in advance. So yeah, take a look at the webinar from a few weeks ago if you want stuff on mute and aspect ratios and all that kind of boring stuff.
You mentioned a couple of other things there that I think are quite important. First of all, Clearcast, and secondly, another thing about the SME offer is that the campaign will run in July, and it's going to be very difficult to film a new video at this point. So have you got advice for video TV ad production now, and what type of TV ads can you produce now under these circumstances? And secondly, explain a little bit about Clearcast. I'm not sure who should go first. I don't know if you want to start, Chris, and then pass. Gareth's obviously got something he wants to add as well.
I'll let Gareth do the Clearcast bit. That's in his right.
Yeah, so Clearcast, they're just a not-for-profit company. They're run by ITV, Channel 4, Us, Channel 5. They basically stop Carlsberg saying they're the best lager in the world. They've got to say probably the best lager in the world. So they just stop people making erroneous claims. Whereas on a lot of advertisers, you can say that Annika Digital are by far the best and the biggest in the world. I'm sure you're the best, Anne. But cool. Clearcast will stop you saying that. So if you're saying anything, it needs backing up. Never say the biggest, never say the best unless you can back it up.
And how much does that cost?
Nothing. No, Clearcast it's a free service. It goes through via the majority of production companies have used it before. We can help you if your clients have got their own advert and can't Clearcast approve it. Let me know. We can do it. It's just to keep TV safe rather than being the Wild West as it was before, saying you can buy this and your hair grows back. It doesn't, by the way.
Chris, did you want to comment on sort of the types of TV ads that if somebody was going to enter, the competition or submit their claim for the 10K under the SME 100 scheme, and they haven't got a video, what can they do in the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks to get a video produced on live for July?
Yeah, there's some incredible stuff you can do with animation. Animation isn't just cartoons. You've got kind of the 3D photorealistic side of animation. So a very talented kind of 3D artist could recreate your product, a photorealistic version of your product in 3D. There are stock video out there, some really great high quality stock libraries. So and they can take things like existing content you might have. So you might have previously had a whole load of high quality videos shot for different purposes that a creative agency could kind of take. So this is where creative agencies kind of earn their money, coming up with an idea. You kind of tell them what they want to do, and they would be work around. But a TV advert isn't just always live action and doesn't always need a film crew to go to a location. There's plenty of kind of techniques. And if you just go down after this and sit and watch the TV for half an hour, you'll see a real mix of all different types of kind of advert production techniques.
As a quick follow-up, we'll see currently a lot of animated adverts on there. That's what's been made by production companies currently. They still can. And this SME 100 initiative, we've got full access to Shutterstock and all these image libraries. And we can help, by the way. It's not a case of, look, go and do your own advert. We would like your own advert. But if you come to me and say, look, I haven't got one, but I really want to look into it, we can happily put you in the right direction or help people too.
And what can we do, Chris, for the audience that might be thinking about video? Because obviously in your previous role at Centre Parks, you were responsible for production of some amazing. I know you didn't actually personally film them, but you were involved in the team that produced some amazing adverts for Centre Parks. How can us, Annika, help? What sort of service can we provide people that might be thinking about this for the first time?
Yeah, like similar to what Gareth said, we can help. We're not going to go and film your advert or animate it ourselves, but I've written a lot of kind of briefs. I've been on the receiving end and kind of the giving end of briefs, and I know what kind of goes into them, what makes a good one. We can offer you all of that kind of guidance in terms of what you need to include, what someone's going to need to know, what you need to consider in terms of channels. We can probably help apply a little bit of reality in terms of what you might be able to get for your budget. And we maybe can set a few expectations and just help you with that to kind of streamline the process and give you an idea of where to start. So yeah, we can do a very similar thing to
and what about the audience side of things, Chris?
Yeah, so we have access to the audience planner tool. Sky have kindly given us access to that. So if it is something you're kind of interested in like I said, we can both kind of help and give you an idea of what you'd be looking at from an audience point of view, whether you're being too specific, too niche, and whether you're going to be able to meet those minimums of the kind of the budget and the audience size of 5,000. So. Yeah, we've had a good kind of play around with the platform. We know our way around the audience planner, and when we do have questions, we just go to Gareth as well. So yeah.
Cool, excellent. So I've got a couple of offers I'm going to put up on the screen for you. I just wanted to ask before I go if Selena, if she's got anything she'd like to add, and if you just want to say what your job role is, Selena, because people will probably wonder why you're here and what your role is at Sky, and if you've got anything you'd like to add, and just see if any of the presenters, and then I'll just open it up to the audience, see if they've got anything to add. So, Selena, can you unmute your mic?
Yeah, I've just done it now. I hope it's not too much of an echo, because I think I've been the one that's been causing these slightly robotic tones when my mic's been put on. So hence me not really saying much in this. So apologies about that. But yeah, just to introduce myself, I'm Celine Higgins Mccarran. I am the newly appointed sales controller for the West Midlands, East Midlands and East of England, working with Gareth. So my remit is to help promote the Sky AdSmart platform to advertising agencies, direct clients, and really I just want to say how excited I am to be working with such a fantastic brand platform. It's incredibly exciting. I've come from global radio. I was there for 20 years previously to that, so have very much been a radio bod, but once I found out about what the AdSmart platform could offer to clients, the targeting capabilities, and the way that it can help deliver and build client brand messages, made me realise that actually this is where I want to be. And so I moved over to Sky, and yeah, very, very happy to be here. All I'd really like to add to what Gareth has said today is that please, if you feel that you would like to apply for our SME 100 initiative, get your details into the system. We're really excited to be able to offer this help to some companies across the UK. We absolutely appreciate that this is difficult times that we all find ourselves in, with COVID-19. So this initiative is very much about offering our support and just seeing how we can help people to grow their business in this time. So please, I would encourage you to enter your details and see if you can get one of those 100 places. So that's it from me. Obviously, I'd like to say thank you to Annika Digital for allowing us to chat to you about the Sky AdSmart platform and about the SME initiative as well. So thank you both, and thank you, Gareth, for doing an amazing job of telling everyone about what we can do. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. We've got the echo back. Is that better? Yeah. What I'll do now is I'll just put a couple of offers up on the screen so you can click on them. So, and then I'll just tell you about next week's webinar. So first of all, we've got the free offer to access all of our training materials. you'll need to go over to academy.annika.co.uk. So if you're interested in this, if you press the request access button now, you'll be able to get that. But also it's going to be pinned top right, so you can carry on offering. As this is the most commonly, most popular one, I leave that one on there. Also, myself, Chris, and the rest of the team are booking 1 hour free consultancy. So if any of you are interested in what we've been talking about or any other aspect of improving your digital marketing, either now or ready for when the lockdown is loosened, you can go over to the Annika site and go onto the contact form there. And then finally, for any of you that I've got time on your hands and you're thinking of getting some more qualifications, we've got a 20% discount on the course. The next one's in June. It's a 12-day course, which we will video anyway. Use this platform to promote it. If we're allowed to have people, because our training rooms are quite big actually, so we can easily accommodate maybe 8 people in there and still have social distancing. But that's planned for June. And then finally, just what's on next week. So this is Sook's Talking Next Friday. We'll be back to Fridays because, of course, it's bank holiday tomorrow. And that's on SEO tasks that you can do in your pajamas. So Sook's ahead of SEO, Annika, and he's going to be presenting a number of tips on what you can do now while you're in lockdown and get your, your site ready and in a great state for later on. All of the webinars and all the recordings are at this link, which is annika.co.uk webinars hyphen videos. I do apologize. It is a bit of a slow loading page. It's got a lot of iframes so that you can just click through to the videos. So it does take a little while to load. So apologies for that. And then finally, the last thing I was going to say is the recording will become available later on today. It takes a couple of hours for the platform to just process it. So you will get an email with that later on. So unless anybody else has got any comments or questions, I think we'll call that a day. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you very much for all the presenters and co-hosts today. And I look forward to speaking to you next week. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.